My name is Cole, and nobody warned me about that weekend. Brett's family house was 40 minutes outside the city. Wide porch, tall windows, the kind of place that smelled like someone actually cooked in it. I dropped my bag in the guest room and came downstairs to find Brett already in the kitchen pulling beers from the back of the fridge.
Told you it was bigger than I said. Mom renovated the whole back half last spring.
You said it was a house. It's an argument for never living in a city again.
Right. Get comfortable. You're not leaving until Monday.
He handed me a beer and nodded toward the living room like nothing else in the world mattered. I followed him through. The television was on. A game I didn't care about. I was looking at the back porch door, open, the screen letting in the last of the afternoon, when I heard her come in from the hall. She was drying her hands on a dish towel. 40-something, dark hair pulled back, but not tightly, the kind of loose that looks intentional. She had the easy, unhurried movement of someone completely comfortable in the space she occupied.
You must be Cole.
That's me.
Brett's told me almost nothing about you, which probably means you're the one keeping him out of trouble.
I've been trying. He keeps making it difficult.
That's completely fair.
She smiled at that. Not a polite smile, a real one, and she shook my hand. One beat past what the introduction required. She held the eye contact when she let go, and then she went back to the kitchen without any particular hurry. Tessa arrived 20 minutes later. 31, sharper than her tone suggested, and she sat down on the couch in the space closest to where I was standing before I'd even decided if I was sitting.
So, Cole, what do you actually do? Brett is famously vague about details.
Architecture. Commercial mostly. Right now a mixed-use build on the east side.
Do you like it or do you just do it?
Both. Depending on the day.
Honest answer. I'll take it.
Brett was 3 sentences into an opinion about the game. Tessa was watching me the way someone watches a door they're deciding whether to open. Vera moved through the room. A glass refilled here, a window latch checked there, and each pass brought her closer to the end of the couch, where I'd finally settled. The third time she passed, she paused at the side table, reached across in front of me for something. A book, a remote, I didn't register what. I reached for my beer at the same moment. Our hands stopped 4 inches apart. She didn't pull back. She looked up from the table to me, not quickly, not shyly, and held that for 3 full seconds while Brett argued with the television.
Sorry.
Don't be. She straightened, walked back toward the kitchen. I set my beer down without drinking from it, and looked at the space on the table where both our hands had almost been. The cushion next to me still held the faint warmth of where she'd been sitting an hour before. I noticed that. I didn't move to a different seat. Brett was asleep by 11. Not dramatic about it. Just tipped sideways into the corner of the armchair the way he always did. One arm across his chest, out completely. He'd done it since college. I knew the breathing pattern. He wasn't coming back.
He does this every time. Every single time.
How long?
Give him 20 minutes before a freight train couldn't wake him. You want another drink?
Sure. She went to the kitchen and came back with 2 glasses. Wine for her, whiskey for me without being asked. She sat back down, closer than before. Not touching, just closer. The television murmured something neither of us was watching.
So how long have you actually known him? Because the version he tells and the version that's probably true are not the same story.
6 years. Met him 2nd year. He told you he tutored me through statistics.
He did tell me that.
He tutored himself through statistics using my notes, and called it even.
That is so specifically him that I can't even be annoyed on your behalf.
She laughed, quick and real, and leaned in slightly when she did it. The way people do when something lands right. Her shoulder nearly reached mine. I was aware of that without making anything of it. And then Vera came in from the back of the house, and the room reorganized itself around her, without anyone moving.
He's down for the night, I see.
Predictable as weather.
I'm going to make tea. Cole, do you want anything?
I'm fine. Thank you. She disappeared into the kitchen. Tessa watched her go, and then looked at me with something I didn't quite have a name for. Assessment, maybe. Amusement underneath it.
She likes you.
She's been very welcoming.
That's not what I said.
I didn't answer that. Tessa smiled into her wine like she'd gotten what she wanted from the silence, and let it go. Vera came back with her tea and sat on the other side of me. Not the far end of the couch, not the armchair. The cushion directly to my left. The space between us was measured. Deliberate.
What are you two talking about?
Brett's version of history versus the actual record.
Oh, the statistics story.
He told you too.
He told everyone. He was very proud of himself. She paused. Were you angry?
For about a day. Then it was just Brett.
That's exactly how it works with him.
She smiled at that, smaller than the one earlier, more private, and looked down at her mug. Tessa made some remark about the game on television, something dry, aimed at no one. I half answered it. Vera didn't. She was looking at the middle distance, and then she wasn't. She was looking at me.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Do you actually want to be here this weekend, or did he guilt you into it? You can tell the truth. I won't report back.
I wanted to come.
Why?
Nobody asked questions like that. Not at 11 on a Friday with the television on and her son asleep 8 feet away. Nobody asked them that directly and then just waited. No softening, no nervous laugh to cushion it. Just the question sitting in the air between us expecting a real answer. I don't know yet. Ask me Sunday. Something shifted in her face. Not surprise, she was past surprise. Something that was closer to recognition. She turned toward me on the cushion, just slightly, and the distance between us crossed from considered into something else entirely. Tessa had gone quiet. I registered that the way you register a sound stopping, noticed by its absence. Vera's hand came up to the side of my face. Slow. No hesitation in it, no question being asked. The heel of her palm rested against my jaw, and her thumb sat at the corner of my mouth for one full second before she closed the distance. The kiss was nothing like the almost touch at the table. That had been proximity. This was intention, warm and unhurried and completely certain of itself. Her mouth was soft and the pressure of it built gradually, the way something does when the person doing it is not rushing toward anything because they already know where they are. I kissed her back. My hand found her waist, the fabric of her shirt, the warmth underneath it, and she made a sound low in her throat that was barely audible and pressed in closer. When we separated, I didn't move my hand. She didn't move hers. Tessa was watching from the other end of the couch. She hadn't moved an inch. Her wine glass was halfway to her mouth and had been there for some time.
She already knew.
I had a feeling. Her voice was quiet. Careful. She set the glass down. I'm going to get some water.
She didn't go to the kitchen. She stood in the doorway between the living room and the hall with her back to us. Still, the television went on talking to itself. Brett breathed in the armchair, and Vera's thumb moved once, slow, deliberate, across my lower lip.
Still want to wait until Sunday?
No. The knock came at 11:15. 3 knocks, unhurried, familiar. The knock of someone who had never needed to wonder whether they were welcome.
That'll be Nora.
I didn't know she was coming tonight.
She texted me from the road. I should have said something.
Tessa went to the door. I straightened on the couch. Vera didn't move away, but she settled, composed, unhurried. The way someone does when they've decided the situation requires nothing from them they aren't prepared to give. I heard the door open. A voice, warm, certain of itself, and then footsteps across the hardwood. Nora was tall, dark coat still on, an overnight bag over one shoulder, a bottle of wine in the other hand like an entrance fee she'd already decided was worth paying. She took in the room in a single sweep. Brett in the armchair, Tessa in the doorway, Vera on the couch, me beside her, and her expression didn't change at all. That specifically told me everything.
I know. Don't say it. The highway was moving and I couldn't make myself stop.
You could have called.
I did call. You didn't pick up.
I was occupied.
Yes. She set the wine on the side table and looked at me with the direct assessment of someone who doesn't waste time on indirection. You must be the friend.
Cole.
Nora. She pulled off her coat and dropped into the armchair across from Brett's without waiting to be invited. How long has he been out?
Since 11.
Consistent. She looked at Vera. You look well.
You're doing that thing where you say one thing and mean 6 others.
I'm doing no such thing. She smiled. Someone pour me a glass of whatever that is.
Tessa poured. The room settled into a shape I didn't have a name for. 4 people in a living room after midnight. One of them asleep, the other 3 arranged around something unspoken like furniture around a fire. Nora asked me 2 questions: where I was from, what I did, and listened to both answers the way someone listens when they are not making conversation but making a determination.
Architecture. So you think about how spaces feel before you build them.
Mostly I think about how they function. The feeling comes, or it doesn't.
That's either very honest or very modest, and I can't tell which yet.
It's honest. She said it without looking up from her glass. He doesn't do modest.
That's generous of you.
Don't make it weird.
Nora laughed, short and genuine, and looked between Tessa and me with the comfortable pleasure of someone who has walked into something more interesting than they expected. Vera had been quiet for 2 minutes. Quiet in the way of someone who is not absent from the conversation but positioned slightly outside it, watching it, deciding something. She stood, reached across me toward the side table. Her tea mug. She wanted her tea mug, and her body crossed the space in front of me to get there. The inside of her forearm grazed my shoulder. Her hair came close enough that I could smell it. Something warm, something that had been near steam, and something else underneath that had nothing to do with the kitchen. She straightened. She didn't step back. I put my hand on her hip. Not a question. Not tentative. My palm pressed flat against the fabric at her side, and she went very still for 1 full second, the particular stillness of someone absorbing something. And then her weight shifted. Her hips moved. Slow. Deliberate. Rolling into the pressure of my hand in a way that was not accidental and not small. Her breath changed. Just slightly. Just enough.
She set her glass down on the coffee table. The small sound of it landing was very loud.
She didn't say anything. She just watched.
Vera looked at them both. Not quickly, she took her time with it. She looked at Tessa first, then at Nora, and something passed between the 3 of them that had the texture of an old language, something spoken between people who had known each other long enough that the words had worn down to gestures.
She turned back to me. Her hand found the front of my shirt, fingers curling once into the fabric. Not pulling, just holding. Her voice came out lower than anything she'd said all night. Come with me.
She said it quietly enough that it didn't carry to the armchair. Brett's breathing didn't change. Tessa had both hands around her empty glass and was looking at the floor. Nora had one knee crossed over the other, and her eyes on Vera, and her expression was something between recognition and a kind of careful tenderness.
Go on then. Soft. Almost to herself.
Vera's fingers released my shirt. She didn't look back at Tessa or Nora again. She moved toward the hallway, and the light there was dim, and she stopped at the edge of it and waited. I stood up. The television said something to nobody. Brett didn't move. I looked at Tessa. She looked back at me, steady, something working behind her eyes that wasn't simple. And then she gave me the smallest nod. One motion. Barely there. The kind that costs something to give. I walked toward the hallway. Toward Vera. Toward the dark beyond the living room that was already a different country from the one I'd arrived in that afternoon. She reached back without looking, and her fingers found my wrist and closed around it. Behind us, Nora said nothing. The television said nothing. The house held its breath. Her bedroom was at the end of the hall. She pushed the door open without turning on the light, and the room came in through the window instead. Street lamp and cloud-filtered dark, enough to see by, enough to make everything softer than it would have been otherwise. She turned to face me. Her back was to the window. The light came from behind her and caught the line of her jaw, her collarbone, the loose fall of her hair.
You can still go back to the couch.
I know.
I mean it. No performance here.
I know you mean it. She watched me cross the room toward her. She didn't step back. She stood with her weight evenly distributed and her chin slightly lifted and watched me come to her the way someone watches something they have wanted for long enough that the wanting has become a form of patience. I stopped close enough that the warmth came off her skin before I touched it. Her eyes didn't move from mine. I brought my hand up to the side of her face, the way she had done to me on the couch, and felt her exhale at the contact. Slow. Controlled. Like something she'd been holding for hours.
You noticed that I did that first.
I noticed everything you did first. She closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, the last of whatever composure she'd been maintaining was gone. Not broken, not lost. Deliberately set down. I kissed her. Not like the couch. That had been the opening of something. This was inside it. Her mouth opened under mine, and her hands came up to my chest and gripped the front of my shirt with both fists, and I felt the pull of it. Not gentle, not asking, and I walked her back one slow step until her shoulders met the wall beside the window. She made a sound against my mouth that she didn't try to quiet. My hands moved. Down her jaw, her neck, the curve of her shoulder. I found the hem of her shirt, and my palms went underneath it and met the warm skin at her waist, smooth and real and warmer than I'd imagined, and she arched into it. Her head tipped back against the wall. Her throat opened.
Don't be careful.
I wasn't planning on it. I took my time anyway. Not carefulness, its opposite. Deliberateness. Every movement with full attention on what it produced. She was responsive in a way that was completely unguarded. No performance, no management of impression. Just her body answering directly and honestly to everything I did. And that honesty was more than I'd expected and exactly what the whole evening had been building toward. Her shirt came off. Then mine. The cold air of the room reached skin that had been covered all night, and she pressed in against me, and the full length of her was warm, and I held her there for a moment. Just held her, her face against my collarbone, before I moved her toward the bed.
Her voice against my throat. I've been thinking about this since the porch.
Since the table, when our hands almost touched.
She pulled back far enough to look at me in the dim light. You noticed that?
I told you. I noticed everything. She kissed me again, and this one had nothing patient left in it. We went down onto the bed, and the full weight of her settled against me, and she moved with the same deliberateness she'd had all evening. Unhurried, certain, knowing exactly where she was and choosing to be there. And every point of contact between us was specific and real and nothing like the word accidental. The details of it belonged to that room and that dark. What I can tell you is this. It was long and it was honest, and not 1 second of it was anything other than two people completely present with each other. She was not performing. I was not performing. There was no distance between the thing happening and the experience of it. No gap to manage or narrate across. At some point the street lamp outside shifted, cloud moving, the quality of the dark in the room changing slightly, and I was aware of her breathing, slow and settling, her weight against my side. Her palm flat on my sternum. My heartbeat under her hand. The house was quiet. From somewhere far off, the kitchen, the back of the house, a soft exchange of voices. Tessa and Nora. Not words. Just the murmur of it. The ordinary sound of two people in a house at night who are not asleep, talking about nothing in particular. That sound made the room feel sealed. Complete. A country with a border neither of us had to defend.
She didn't move. Her voice was quiet and unhurried. Are you okay?
Yes. You?
I'm very okay. A pause. That's an understatement.
Take your time.
She made a sound that was almost a laugh. Low. Soft. Nothing performed about it. I'm not going anywhere.
I looked at the ceiling. The light moved slowly across it, cloud drift, the lamp outside doing its quiet work. Her hand rose and fell with my breathing. Down the hall Brett slept on in complete unknowing. In the kitchen the voices murmured and stopped and murmured again. The television had been turned off at some point. I hadn't heard it happen. The room held us. The dark held the room. Vera's palm pressed down slightly. Not moving, just pressing, as if she was checking something. As if she wanted to be certain of the specific realness of what was under her hand.
Cole.
Yeah.
Just that. Just your name. Just so you know I know whose chest this is.
I put my hand over hers. Her fingers laced through mine without any discussion about it. The ceiling moved its slow light. Neither of us spoke again for a long time, and the silence was the most honest thing in the house. I woke before 6. The room was still dark at the edges, but the sky through the curtain had started its shift, that particular gray that isn't night anymore, but hasn't committed to being morning. Vera was on her side facing away. Her breathing was slow and even. I watched it for a moment. The rise and fall of her shoulder, the loose fall of her hair against the pillow, and then I got up without waking her and found my clothes in the dark. The kitchen was empty. The coffee maker had been set on a timer, and the smell of it met me at the bottom of the stairs. I poured a cup and went out through the back door onto the porch. Vera was already there. Different clothes. Hair still loose. Both hands wrapped around a mug that had been refilled at least once, judging by the steam. She looked at me the way people look at something they've been expecting without admitting they were expecting it.
I wondered if you'd sleep in.
I don't really sleep in.
Neither do I. She made a small movement with her head toward the railing beside her. Come here then.
I went and stood beside her. The yard was still and gray, and a bird was doing something determined in the tree line at the back. She held out her mug without looking at me, and I took a sip and handed it back, and we stood like that for a while, without filling the silence.
Can I say something honest?
That's all you've done since I got here.
She smiled at the yard. Last night wasn't something I planned. I want you to know that. Not because it changes anything, I don't regret it, not 1 second of it, but because I want you to know it wasn't calculated. I saw you and I wanted you, and eventually I stopped pretending I didn't.
How long did the pretending last?
She considered that. About 40 minutes after you arrived.
That long?
I was trying to be reasonable.
And then?
And then you answered that question I asked about whether you actually wanted to be here, and you didn't deflect and you didn't perform, and I stopped being reasonable.
She finally looked at me. Direct. No softening around it.
I'm 43 years old. I know what I feel and I know what things are. So tell me what this is for you, honestly, and I'll tell you if it matches.
I don't know what to call it yet, but it doesn't feel small. It doesn't feel like something I'll put down easily.
She held that for a moment. That's enough. That's more than enough, actually.
The back door opened. Nora came out in a borrowed sweater 2 sizes too large, coffee in hand, her hair undone, and she took in the two of us at the railing with the unhurried ease of someone arriving at a conclusion they'd already reached the night before.
Good morning. She settled into the porch chair like she'd been assigned it. Don't stop on my account. I've been awake for an hour and I need something more interesting than my own thoughts.
You could have stayed in bed.
I could have. She sipped her coffee and looked at Cole. How'd you sleep?
Well enough.
That's a diplomatic answer.
It's an honest one.
She tilted her head slightly. You know what I like about you? And I realize I've known you for approximately 9 hours, so take this for what it's worth. You don't fill space. Most people your age fill every space they're in. You just occupy yours and leave the rest alone.
I don't know if that's a compliment.
It's an observation. Whether it's a compliment depends on what you do with it.
She said it to Nora, dry, warm. Leave him alone.
I'm being friendly.
You're being Nora, which is a different thing.
Nora laughed and didn't argue the point. The morning settled around the three of us. Coffee steam, the bird in the tree line, the yard going slowly from gray to green as the light built. Vera's hand found the railing beside mine. Not covering it, just close. The side of her hand against the side of mine. That specific small pressure that is not accidental and not nothing. I turned my hand over. She looked down at it, and then placed her palm across it without discussion.
She was watching the yard. She said it quietly, almost to herself. There's a version of this that gets complicated.
I know.
I'm not saying don't. I'm saying no.
I know, Nora.
She nodded once and said nothing else about it.
Vera stepped closer. The warmth of her side reached my arm before the contact did, and then it did. Her shoulder against mine, her weight shifting slightly in, the full familiar press of her that was different now than it had been the night before. Not less, more. Everything the same, but with a new layer of knowledge underneath it. My hand turned under hers, and I laced our fingers together. She looked out at the yard. Her thumb moved once across my knuckle, slow, deliberate, the same way it had moved across my lip on the couch. Her particular signature. The thing she did when words were available, but touch was more accurate.
Cole.
Yeah.
She paused. Long enough that the bird in the tree line had time to finish what it was doing and start something else. I don't want this to be a weekend.
She didn't look at me when she said it. She said it to the yard. To the morning. To the specific plain air between a thing felt and a thing spoken. Nora looked at her coffee. Said nothing. The grace of that, the deliberate turning away, cost her something, and she paid it without making anything of it. I looked at the side of Vera's face. The morning light on her jaw. The steadiness of her. A woman who had said the true thing because she was past the age of saying the easier one. It isn't. Her fingers tightened once around mine. Once. Then settled. Nora stood, stretched, picked up her mug. She looked at us both for exactly 1 second. Something in her expression that was not quite a smile, but lived in the same neighborhood, and went back inside without a word. The door clicked shut. The yard held its morning light. Vera's hand stayed in mine, and the silence between us was the kind that doesn't need to be filled because it already is. Brett woke up at 8:30 the way Brett always woke up. Loud and cheerful, and completely without memory of having fallen asleep. He came into the kitchen already talking, hair sideways, pulling open the refrigerator like a man who had never once in his life experienced a complicated morning.
Okay. Eggs. Who wants eggs? This is not a request, this is an announcement. I'm making eggs, and if you don't want them you can stand there and watch me enjoy them.
She was already at the counter with her coffee. Make enough for everyone and stop being dramatic.
I'm never dramatic. Cole, scrambled or fried, pick fast, I'm already committed to a pan size.
Scrambled.
Correct answer. He pointed at Nora across the kitchen. You're the wild card. I don't know your egg preferences.
Scrambled is fine.
See, that's what a reasonable person says. He cracked the first egg against the counter with complete confidence. Mom, you eating?
She was at the far end of the kitchen with her back to the room, rinsing something at the sink. I'll have whatever's left.
That's not how this works, you get a full portion, I'm not running a leftover operation.
Brett.
Fine. Full portion. You're welcome.
He cooked the way he did everything, with absolute confidence in his own method and no particular interest in anyone else's. Tessa watched him from the counter with the tired affection of someone who has long since accepted a thing they cannot change. Nora sat at the kitchen table with both hands around her mug and said nothing, which for Nora was a form of generosity. I sat at the table too. Vera moved through the kitchen with her normal rhythm, unhurried, oriented, belonging to the space. She didn't look at me more than she looked at anyone else. She was careful. I was careful. We were both careful in ways that took effort and showed none. Brett set the pan on a low heat and turned around.
So what did I miss? Talk. I'm a social creature and I've been unconscious for 9 hours.
Nothing. We watched television. Nora showed up.
Nora, why didn't you text?
I did text.
You texted Tessa, that doesn't count as a real text in my system.
Your system is not a real system.
That's genuinely hurtful. He turned back to the eggs. Cole, did anything happen or did these women spend the entire night being withholding?
The question landed in the room, and for the space of 2 full seconds nobody breathed at exactly the same volume as before. We talked. Had drinks. Pretty quiet night.
Typical. He shook the pan. Every time I fall asleep you people have quiet nights. I don't believe that's a coincidence.
It's not. She set it into her coffee cup and nobody laughed more than was appropriate.
Breakfast came together. Plates passed. The table settled into the comfortable noise of 5 people eating. Brett's running commentary on everything. Nora's dry rejoinders. Tessa refilling her coffee twice. Vera sat at the head of the table and ate and spoke when spoken to and was completely composed. I watched her hands when I had a reason to look that direction. She cut her toast the same way twice. Brett was midway through a story about a job site incident that was probably funnier than it was when he stopped. Just briefly. He'd reached for the salt, and when he sat back he glanced across the table. At me, then at his mother, and something in the arrangement of us, or the quality of the air, or something he clocked without having words for it, yet made him pause. He went back to the story, but something in his tempo had shifted by half a beat.
He finished the story. Set his fork down. Looked at his eggs. Right. So. Good eggs.
Great eggs.
Very solid eggs.
Thank you. He nodded like a man processing something at a depth slightly below the level of eggs. Yeah.
Tessa looked at me across the table. Quick. A flicker of something, warning, maybe. Solidarity. She picked up her plate and stood.
I'm going to get more toast. Nora, come help me.
The toaster is directly behind you.
Nora.
She stood immediately. Yes. Toast. Great idea.
They went to the counter with their backs to the table. The kitchen was not large. The distance they'd created was more symbolic than physical, but it was real. Brett looked at the space where they'd been sitting. Then he looked at me. Then he looked at Vera. Vera met his eyes. She didn't look away. She didn't perform innocence or confusion. She just looked at her son with the steady patience of someone who has decided that when the moment comes she will meet it straight. Brett's jaw moved once. Not speech, something being worked through. He looked back at me. The look was not hostile. It was more careful than that. More interior. The look of someone reorganizing a room in their head they thought they knew the layout of.
He said it with deceptive lightness. You sleep okay? Guest room comfortable?
Fine. Yeah, comfortable.
Good. He picked up his fork again. That's good.
He took a bite. Chewed it. Set the fork down again. Looked at the table. From the counter, Tessa and Nora were talking about something neither of them cared about in voices that were just slightly too even. Brett looked up at me one more time. His eyes went to his mother for 1 second, and then came back.
He said it quietly. Still light. Still almost nothing. We're good, right?
The question sat in the air between us with everything it didn't say attached to it like weight. I looked at him. At the face of 6 years of friendship, at a person I knew well enough to know exactly how much this was costing him to ask that lightly. Yeah, we're good. Brett held my eyes for 3 full seconds. Then he nodded once, short, private, and picked up his fork and went back to his eggs. Vera's hands were flat on the table in front of her. Still, not reaching for anything. Not moving. The particular stillness of someone holding something very carefully so it doesn't spill. From the counter, Tessa said something to Nora about the toast. Nora answered. Outside the kitchen window the morning had gone fully bright and indifferent, and the yard looked exactly like it had the day before. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. The table held all of it without comment. Brett found me on the side porch an hour after breakfast. He came out with 2 beers, too early for beers, neither of us mentioned it, and handed me one and sat down on the step below mine and looked out at the driveway for a while before he said anything.
I'm not going to pretend I don't know.
I know you're not.
He turned the bottle in his hands. How long have you, was this, he stopped. Tried a different entrance. Was it just last night?
It started last night.
Started.
Yeah. He absorbed that. Took a long pull from his beer. Set it down on the step beside him with more care than the action required.
She's my mother, Cole.
I know who she is.
Do you though? Because from where I'm sitting this looks like a weekend thing and she doesn't. He stopped again. She doesn't do weekend things. That's not how she's built.
I know that too.
He looked at me for the first time since sitting down. How do you know that? You've known her for 36 hours.
Some things you know faster than the timeline suggests you should. Brett was quiet for a long moment. A car passed on the road at the end of the driveway. Neither of us watched it.
If you hurt her I can't, he pressed his mouth shut. I'm not going to threaten you because that's not something I do and you know that. But she's had enough of the other thing. Enough of people who don't stay.
I hear you.
Don't hear me. Answer me.
I'm not going anywhere, Brett. He looked at me. The look was long and it was serious, and it was the most adult I had ever seen his face in 6 years of knowing him. Then something in it shifted. Not relief exactly. Something more complicated than relief. The specific expression of someone who has decided to trust something they cannot verify, and is making peace with the uncertainty of that.
He exhaled. Looked back at the driveway. This is the strangest weekend of my life.
Yeah.
And I fell asleep through most of it.
You really did.
He was quiet for another moment. Then, and I heard the effort it cost him, she hasn't looked like that in a long time. Last night at the table. This morning. Whatever that is, he gestured vaguely, I haven't seen that on her face in a while.
What does it look like?
Like she's not managing anything.
He picked up his beer and stood and looked down at me with an expression that wasn't quite resolution and wasn't quite acceptance, but lived in the territory between them.
Don't make me regret this conversation.
I won't.
He nodded once. Went back inside. The screen door closed behind him with its quiet particular sound, and I sat with the beer going warm in my hand and the driveway empty in front of me.
Vera was in the living room when I came back inside. Alone. Tessa and Nora somewhere upstairs. I could hear them moving around through the ceiling. The television was off. The room was exactly as it had been the first night, except that everything in it meant something different now. She looked up when I came in.
How is that?
Honest. Both directions.
Is he okay?
He will be. He's a good person.
She smiled. He is. I know that better than anyone. She looked at her hands. He worries about me.
He told me.
What did he say?
That you don't do weekend things. That you've had enough of people who don't stay. She was quiet for a moment. Not hurt, absorbing. Processing the particular exposure of being known by the people who love you.
He's not wrong.
I know he's not. I crossed the room and sat beside her. Close. The same cushion as the first night. The distance between us now was not the distance of 2 days ago. It had no performance in it. No negotiation. No question being held in reserve. I put my hand on her jaw the way she had put hers on mine that first night on the couch, and she leaned into it like it was the most natural thing her face had ever done.
Cole.
I meant what I said on the porch this morning.
So did I.
She turned her face into my palm. Her lips against the inside of my wrist. Not a kiss exactly, something quieter than a kiss, more private. A thing said in the language of proximity rather than words. We didn't rush. There was nothing to rush toward because nothing was leaving. Her hands came up to my shoulders and mine went to her waist, and we stayed like that for a moment. Just that, just the specific weight and warmth of her, the particular solidity of something real, before she leaned in and her mouth found mine. This kiss was different from every kiss before it. Not more urgent, more settled. The first one had been discovery. The second had been hunger. This one was neither. This one was a statement. Two people who had moved through something together and come out the other side and were choosing, with full information, to be where they were. Her hands moved. Mine moved. The afternoon light came sideways through the blinds and lay in warm bars across the floor, and neither of us was anywhere other than exactly there. Upstairs a door opened. Tessa's voice, something called down to Vera, a question about towels or lunch, something ordinary. Vera pulled back, just enough to answer.
She called back up the stairs, clear, steady, completely herself. There's extra in the hall cupboard. Take whatever you need.
From the top of the stairs. Got it. You two okay down there?
She looked at me when she answered. We're fine.
A pause. The particular pause of someone smiling where you can't see them. Okay. Good.
Footsteps retreating. A door closing. Vera looked back at me, and the expression on her face was so unguarded and so complete that I held it. The specific image of it. The way you hold something you know you will want to be able to find again later. Nora appeared in the doorway a few minutes after. Coat on, bag over her shoulder, car keys in hand. She looked at us both on the couch, unhurried, taking her time, and something in her expression settled into a kind of quiet satisfaction.
I'm heading out. She said it to Vera first. Call me this week.
I will.
She looked at me. She held it for a moment, all of it in that look, the whole weekend, everything she'd watched and said nothing about, everything she'd given space to without being asked. Take care of what you've got here.
I intend to.
Good. She nodded once, final, complete. Then she looked at Vera one last time and something passed between them that was old and private and mine to witness but not to own. She left without ceremony. The front door opened and closed. The sound of her car in the driveway fading toward the road.
I left an hour after Nora. My bag was already packed. It hadn't really been unpacked. Brett walked me out to the car and shook my hand and held it a beat longer than usual and said nothing that needed saying, because enough had already been said on the side porch with the two early beers. Tessa leaned against the porch railing and raised one hand when I looked back. No performance in it. Just acknowledgement. The small, honest gesture of someone who had watched something real happen and was glad for it. Vera stood at the front door. I put my bag in the car and closed the trunk and turned back. She had one arm across her chest, her own hand at her opposite shoulder, holding herself lightly, and she was watching me with the steady, unhurried patience that was the most specific thing about her. Not waiting for something, not needing anything, just present, fully there, completely herself. I stopped at the end of the front path and looked at her across the distance between us. She didn't gesture for me to come back. She didn't call anything across the space. She just held my eyes, patient, clear, and so entirely complete in herself that the looking was enough. That the distance between us was not absence. It was just the particular shape that this moment took. I got in the car, started it, sat for 1 second with both hands on the wheel. The front door closed. Not against me, just closed. The ordinary final sound of a house returning to itself, the sound any house makes when the people inside it are ready to begin whatever comes next. I pulled out of the driveway and onto the road and didn't look in the mirror because I didn't need to. Because some things you don't need to look back at to carry with you. The weekend had cost me something. I knew the exact shape of what it had cost, and I had paid it without hesitation, and I would pay it again. The road opened up ahead. The morning was already somewhere behind me. I drove toward whatever Sunday was going to be, with her hand still warm against my sternum in some way I had no practical language for, and the particular quiet of a man who has gotten exactly what he didn't know he came for.